could not have been happier for the return of Dalvin Cook, who had more than 200 total yards and 4 touchdowns in their 28-22 win over the Packers. Aaron Rodgers threw for nearly 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, but Rodgers fumbled the ball on Green Bay's potential game-winning drive in the final seconds, and the Packers fell to 5-2. Shannon, how much blame does Rodgers deserve for this stunning home loss to, yes, the Minnesota Vikings?
Little, if any. It's the strangest game I've ever seen. I don't know if I've ever seen a game like this, where basically you get 4 possessions and the team score on each possession in the first half. I mean, if you really look at it, Aaron Rodgers just had 2 possessions. He scored. He got the ball back right before the end of the half with like 25 seconds, and they ran the play. So really, he had 2 possessions. The Minnesota Vikings had 2 possessions. They scored touchdowns on their 2 possessions. And then Dalvin, I don't get the Skip. Mike Pettin was in an 8-man front, and Dalvin Cook was getting 20, 30, 10, 8 yards a clip. I was like, really? And on 3rd and 9, they dump a screen pass to Dalvin Cook, and he goes 50 untouched. I knew Green Bay defense wasn't top-notch. I said, okay, maybe 20th. Skip, yesterday, after what I saw, I'm like, what is this? We just talked about it. First Cousins was 11 of 14, Skip. Let that sink in. Dude won an NFL game. He complete. This ain't 1970. This ain't 1960. 11 of 14. And they won the ball game because the Packers defense couldn't stop Dalvin Cook. Show what Dalvin Cook said, yeah, I need to get me a little bit of money. Skip, if you want to say Rodgers is to blame, maybe the play that he threw to Tanyan, that Tanyan laid out for, give him 1%. But other than that, I can't put this at his foot. I mean, the guy was 27 of 41, 291, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Again, where is he at right now, Skip? 20 touchdowns, 2 picks, and they're 5-2. You want to put that one on Tampa? That's lay that at his feet. This one right here, Skip, I can't put this at his feet. So
help me out here. This is the greatest thrower of the football in the history of the game, says the Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe. And he's up against a 1-5 Vikings team with the 30th ranked defense in points allowed coming into the game. 30th ranked, that's 32 points a game.
Right.
Well, how did he put up only 22 points on a defense allowing 32?
Well, you have to have the ball. You see what Dalvin Cook was doing? When the guy goes 30 for 163.
Okay, well, timeout. Time of possession, home team Packers had the ball 32 minutes to 28 minutes for Kirk Cousins and Dalvin Cook.
Skip, you watched that game.
32 to 28.
Skip, you saw what was happening in that game. You saw. You have little to no respect for Kirk Cousins. How many times you think a guy is going to win a football game in which he has 11 completions, and the defense doesn't score a touchdown, the special teams doesn't score a touchdown, or the offense doesn't, and the opposing offense doesn't turn it over? How many times will that happen? Well, it will happen if your running back runs wild. In an 8-man box, Skip, you can't stop Dalvin Cook with an 8-man box.
I thought Aaron Rodgers was transcendent. I thought he could lift his team to win over 1-5 division.
I just saw your guy, Nick Foles, lose again to Drew Brees.
He's not my guy.
That's your guy, Nick Foles. You talk about, Nick Foles. He saved Carson Wentz. Without Nick, he can't, he lost again.
It went to overtime.
He lost again.
It's pretty good.
This is what I do know. This year in 2020, Nick Foles has more losses for the Bears than Mitchell Trubisky.
Okay, so now we're talking about Nick Foles trying to change the subject from an Aaron Rodgers who lost at home yesterday, scoring 22 points against the 30th ranked defense.
Really, is there really any such thing as home where there's really no fans?
Oh, there's no fans. So now the excuse is there are no fans in Green Bay. And I know it was windy.
I got it. You see how you try to miss my word? I didn't say there weren't fans in Green Bay. I'm saying there weren't fans at Lambeau.
And then the miracle maker that is Aaron Rodgers, end of game, he throws Hail Mary miracles, and you got to know, you got to have that clock in your head. You got to know who's coming from behind you.
Come on. Stop it.
Is he starting to get a little old? Is he starting to get up there in that LeBron range?
I just want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. You're supposed to have a clock in your head to know somebody's coming, but not a clock in your head to know it's full was down. Oh, so what about the clock?
Except when the clock said it's time to play at Tampa Bay, what happened to Aaron Rodgers? He folded up like one of those lawn chairs at a Tampa retirement home. Last three quarters, he scored 0 points.
You got
he
lost
folded. It sounded like he folded yesterday against Kirk Cousins and Dalvin Cook. Really?
You got lost to Nick Foles.
My guy's playing on Monday Night Football tonight to get to 6-2.
Think about this.
Thank you.
Every time the Packers had the ball, they either scored or they reached Minnesota's territory. But 5 offensive holding penalties stalled out drives. And we talked about, remember? Now, you remember now when your guy was going berserk in Chicago, yelling and MFing people on the sideline?
It worked.
All I'm saying.
It worked.
So in other words,
no turnovers, no penalties the last 2 games. That'll work. Way to go.
Well, the Packers need to, maybe Aaron Rodgers need to put foots in somebody and jump in somebody's face.
He put foots in his management's face after the game because what did he do? He's asked about receivers. The last guy I wanted, they let go to Buffalo, right? Kumaro.
Yeah.
Oh, way to go, Aaron.
Oh, let me ask you a question.
Taking more shots.
I want to know, that quarterback, how does he help the Packers defense right now? How does he help Aaron Rodgers win a game right now?
Who's that?
The quarterback, the one they traded up to get.
Oh,
I want to know, how does he help the Packers?
They took him because they want to replace Aaron Rodgers sooner than later.
Okay, you want to replace him sooner than later. So right now, we're sooner. So how can he help us win sooner?
Because he's a diva and not a leader.
No, I get all that. I get Aaron Rodgers as a diva. I get all that. But I want to know, how did the draft pick help us currently?
It did not.
Okay.
And yet, here comes Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I got something for y'all. Oh, Drew Brees got something for y'all Sunday night.
Yeah, I hope so.
Oh, Drew Brees got that for y'all.
We'll be there with bells on.
Not feel bad for the Packers whatsoever. I know the Vikings have been struggling, but I don't care. We got the win yesterday. Next, guys, how do you explain Baker Mayfield's fall off after last week's thrilling win? How concerned are you with Lamar's regression this year?
I'm not concerned at all with Lamar. I think with Lamar, you can teach him to do anything possible on the football field, and he can conquer it. I think he's just that talented. I think he's just that competent. What I am worried about is the scheme that the Baltimore Ravens is running, and the teams are catching up with the scheme. And what I don't want to happen with Lamar is what happened with Tyrod Taylor under Greg Roman and his offense. And his offense can be dynamic, and I love what they do. And they can come out and they can shock you at times. But, when teams have a chance to scheme it, it tends to slow down and get stymied a little bit, and it is not as fluent as we would think it should be. And I think Lamar's, victim of that right now. What they have to start doing, because I know they're getting a ton of 8-man boxes, and I'll probably go watch some film on them, is take advantage of, the one-on-ones on the outside. We know they like to play the game in between the hashes with the tight ends, and that's easy to scheme for. And like I said, Lamar can learn anything that you want to teach him. So the one-on-ones, taking advantage of the 8-man boxes, you got to implement that. And if I'm not mistaken, Lamar was vouching for a guy like Antonio Brown, throughout the offseason, a guy who can take advantage of, the 8-man boxes and the one-on-ones outside and change the flow and the pace of the game. So, there's no excuses as, to why we should think it's been a regression for Lamar, because that somewhat has been. But, when you're running the same scheme over and over again, teams are going to start to catch up with that. So things have to happen, moving forward, and it's going to have to happen fast, because it's a lot of football to play, and there's some good teams out there that can scheme and know how to stop, what you're trying to do if it all looks the same.
I'm not overly concerned with regression. I'm more concerned with that I haven't seen progression. That's what I'm concerned with. And we keep talking about, because here's the thing, Mike. I believe he has the receivers. Hollywood Brown can beat one-on-one coverage. I believe they have some guys that can beat one-on-one coverage. But are we sure, is where Lamar is right now, that he can consistently get to that and throw that and complete that? You're talking to a guy that, if you look at, Skip and I talked about this earlier, in big games, and I listed 3 games against Kansas City, 2 games against Pittsburgh, and the playoff games. He's 1-6, 9-8, 9 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 53% completion percentage. Mike, in today's game, if you're not in the mid-60s, you bull jiving, because the game is so spread open. The way they protect the receivers, all the incidental contact, the way they protect the quarterback. That's why you see a lot of these top quarterbacks, they 65, 70% of completion percentage. If you look at his numbers against the other teams, he's 23-1, 123, lost 1, 65% completion, 13 turnovers, and the other 1-6, he's 14 turnovers. So he's turned the ball over in 7 games more than he's turned it over in 24 games. The regression, I'm not worried about regression. I'm worried about progression, because in order for him to get to where he ultimately wants to be, he's going to have to throw the football. But, Mike, I know you noticed this. Tampa was one of the teams that gave you problems. And what could Tampa do? And who was the wide DB coach on Tampa?